Jesus with a question, and in many respects they're not wanting to learn, they're wanting to prove that they're right, that there is no resurrection, that they're focused on the here and now. I guess in many respects the Sadducees would have been the politicians of their day. They tested the wind and stayed with the winning vote at the time. And so they were quite happy to collaborate with the Romans. The tax collectors got a bad deal for it, but the Sadducees were just seen as, well, they have to. It's part of their position. But really, they want to justify their belief. And so they come to Jesus with this question about this strange situation of a man who's married, 7 men who are married to the same woman. You've got to wonder about a cookie. Or something, 7 blokes all die, it's an insane story. But actually, I do have friends, 1 or 2 friends, who have been married to 2 or 3 people, and they love them all. They love them all, the poor man or woman, poor men or women have died, and so I know a couple of people who have got 3 wives that have already gone to heaven, or 3 husbands that have already gone to heaven, and I've never actually given it a thought to, well, which one would they be married to in heaven? And I guess most of you haven't either had that thought. Because so often we look at our stuff a little bit how we've always looked at it. And this story is just teaching us that there's a resurrection, and we just, there's a resurrection. And we perhaps have never given a thought to, well, will Uncle George be married to Mabel or Sylvia? Or will he be married to both of them? And will he still be allowed to be a church elder? Because a church elder can't be married to 2 women. And there's all sorts of actual complications come once you start thinking. So, I would just encourage it. But Jesus says to the Sadducees, the earth needs marriage to create a stable environment and to bring up children. We recreate, as it were, to sustain the circle of life. But then Jesus says those who attain the right to resurrection neither marry or are married, for they cannot die anymore. They're like angels. They are children of God. There's no suggestion. It's funny, isn't it? Because we often at funerals speculate a little bit about what heaven might be like. But there's no suggestion that we'll have more children in heaven. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? The kind of things that we take and we never really think about. And so this can be good news and bad news. There are people out there who have perhaps navigated a challenging marriage, and this is good news. I saw a bench on the way up Darwin Tower, and it says, this bench is to Uncle George, and died in I think he was about 87. And then it says, in 93, it says his beloved wife, Mabel, followed him. And underneath it said, he won't be happy about that. And it doesn't suggest that George was looking forward to Mabel coming and joining him. So there are some people, when they hear that, we're not married in heaven, that maybe they'll breathe a small sigh of relief. And then there are other people who have one of those wonderful marriages, who will be sad and they'll have a tear in their eye. And they'll wonder, I hope I still know you in heaven, darling. And I think we will know people in heaven. Jesus just says we're not going to be married like we are in this life. It's not the things of earth. There are people who deeply love their husband and wife who will wonder what it will be like. So we must be careful of making too many assumptions from one question. And Jesus goes on to say God is still the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. We're not just going to be all in some kind of big soup where we're all an eternal part of God and nobody's anybody anymore. We will still be who we are. And as we're told that God is love, personally I sort of feel that the people that we love will still be an important part of life in heaven. We'll still love the people that we love. And therefore, hopefully, although we might not live as we did on earth, we'll still have some contact and some awareness and some still relationship, because God himself, Scripture tells us, exists in a relationship. So, I've decided as well that this is going to throw up quite a lot of questions. So for the next 2 weeks, instead of looking at James, we're going to look at this at Life Group. So if you come in next a week on Friday at Life Bible Study, we'll be looking at this. So if you have any questions, you're sat here thinking, oh, hang on a minute now, what about? Well, then we'll have a go at that at Life Group in 2 weeks' time. So, there are all sorts of questions about heaven. But God does reassure us, and Jesus reassures us that it will be a place of great rejoicing. And there will be a marriage in heaven. There will be a marriage feast of the Lamb and his bride. And the church of Jesus is married to Jesus. And so we will be part. So we have all sorts of things to look forward to. But we have to be careful in some respects of not limiting heaven to the best of this earth. As sort of, we kind of think that the food in heaven will be that best ever meal you have, plus maybe 10%. And if we're not careful, we kind of do that, don't we? And it's an interesting one because Muslims, as an example, take Jesus to be a prophet. And given that Jesus himself has said that there's no marriage in heaven, how can people who are blowing themselves up think that they're going to get 7 virgins when they get there? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And that's the trouble. They're not paying enough attention to what is being said. And so lastly, we've got questions about marriage. We've also got questions about the future. And I think one of the most important questions is that one of the most important answers for us is God can be trusted. This has been a strange time. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking politically, economically, socially, it's a strange time. However, those of you that have been through World War II are probably thinking, this is nothing. What are you on about, you softie? It's only a bit of turmoil, just because government's embarrassing and all that, and there's trouble in Ukraine. It's nothing like World War II, where now that we're serious. But it's still a strange time. The press are using the recession word, which is quite a new thing. Is this a distraction or a real warning of harder times to come? The future, in all sorts of ways, is unsure. But you know what? It always is. The future's always unsure. We often go through life as if we're trying to make it so that everything will be sorted. The mortgage is paid, the kids are married, things are sorted, we can go on. Everything's sorted out, we've got things sorted out. But life's never like that. The future is always unknown. None of us knows what tomorrow will bring. We don't know what the future holds, but we do, as followers of Jesus, know who holds the future. And that should give us confidence. That should give us great confidence. In 1939, King George VI read this poem, and he said, "And I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way. So I went forth, and finding the hand of God, trod gladly into the night. Jesus promised that those who followed him will not walk in darkness, but that we would have the light of life. Keep calm and carry on became the watchword, didn't it, through World War II. I kind of guess that, I would encourage you to pray for the media as well as our politicians, because it does seem that so often our media are trying to instill fear all the time in us. And I think afresh we need to be reminded to keep calm and carry on. It has been and it continues to be a confusing time. But if we go forward with our hands in the hand of God, we may know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future. And any time you're tempted to worry, I would encourage you to do what the people of Israel did. They look back at their history and they look back at how reliable God had been in the past, and they always felt safe. You see, every time in my life I've come to big, challenging situations and crises, At the time, often I didn't know what I was going to do. But as I look back, every time God has been faithful and has kept bringing me through. When Jesus spoke of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, they had very different lives. And yet, for all three of them, God kept on bringing them through. And this is the message for the people of God. And this is something that, in some respects, it's always fascinating to hear when we do get to share together in life groups. That we hear somebody else's story, how God has brought them through, how God has done something in their life. Last week I was talking to somebody in this congregation about prayer, and they said something that's been my experience too. They've been praying about something and the sunlight came in and lit them up. And I've had that experience where I actually felt, you kind of feel like God said, heard it. I've heard your message. I've heard your prayer. There's something about it, just the timing. You kind of just get to the end of praying for somebody and you say, Amen. And then the sun bursts through a window and you're lit up and you can hardly keep your eyes open. And we live in England. We're not used to such bright sunlight. But you feel very much in your heart like God said, I got it. I heard you. I know that was a heartfelt prayer. I know that wasn't a selfish prayer. You were praying for someone you love. And I've heard your prayer for someone you love. And God hears our prayers. And God responds to them. So let's keep on asking questions together, going forward together with our hands in the hand of God. And keep on learning and working out our faith with fear and trembling. Amen. We're going to sing together number 646. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. 646. To sign up for the party on the 18th. So there's a notice out there and there's a Christmas party on the 18th. Please your name on the board. So you can get your sandwiches or whatever for eating. Right, what have you been doing? You can show me. So can I have a look? light shine before others, so they may see your good works. Are you going to finish that when you get up? It's a very detailed plan. So, well done, good job. Let's have a look at yours. And yours says, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Some good colour in here, much better than the inside the lines. Well done. Okay. Wisdom's caught you too, hasn't it? Right, have we got a prayer? Okay. We've got lots of prayers, all right, okay. It's on.
Let us pray. Oh Lord, help me through my life to brighten the world of the depressed, to glow in a world of darkness, and to shine when others struggle to find joy. In a time of war, may my light be a light of peace. In a time of hate, may my light be a light of love. In time of poverty, may my light be a light of prosperity.
Amen.
Shine within me. The faith, the light of faith, the light of hope, the light of love. O Lord, bless me this day to be a light to the world. Help me this day to let my light shine, that all people might see your goodness, mercy and power, shining through what they see